Hello, and thank you for coming to learn more about mastering the virtual legal world. I am going to share my screen for a lot of the presentation because I'm going to try and give you some examples for the tips and tricks, Zoom depositions, arbitrations, hearings, and more. My email is zoe@littlepagebooth.com. Please write it down. If you have questions, if you want follow-up materials, if you want to ask about anything in the presentation, feel free to email me and I will try and answer. If you don't know me, my name is Zoe Littlepage. I am a partner of the law firm of Littlepage Booth Lechman. I am also one of the founders of Athea Trial Lawyers, which is a group of 6 women. We all run our own law firms and we collaborate together on cases. I'm going to be using examples from both my partners at Littlepage Booth Lechman and my partners at Athea Trial Lawyers today, which is why I'm introducing them all to you. And the agenda for today is to hopefully give you 6 take-home tips. If I have time, I might add a 7th as a bonus, but I'm going to try to get through all 6. The goal is to look at what we did in the real world practicing law and how do we bring that into the virtual world of Zoom. And I will tell you, I believe Zoom is here to stay. It's not going anywhere, and it is the most efficient and actually better way of practicing law than what we did before the pandemic. So, agenda, I want to talk a little bit about equipment. If you're going to be doing Zoom depositions and hearings and arbitrations, there's some basic equipment I think you should get. Give you a whole bunch of examples of how to do things differently and better in Zoom, and then show you some end results. The goal always of lawyers is how do we get a longer attention span from our audience, whether our audience is an adjuster and a defense lawyer in mediation or a jury at trial. How do we get people to listen to us for longer? Because you cannot persuade someone who is not listening. An interesting fun fact, today, because of all the social media we have, people actually have a lower attention span than a goldfish. A goldfish's attention span is 9 seconds, and the most recent studies tell us that millennials' attention span is 8 seconds. So how do we get back to where we can capture the attention of our audience? And one way, obviously, is to be visual. We know there's 3 learning styles: visual, auditory, tactile, but 60% of people out there are visual, which means 60% of your jury is a visual learner. And we need to be visual. We need to be boldly visual, because look at the retention rates. If you just verbally present something, in 3 hours, 25% of it will be remembered and 10% after 3 days. Why is that important? Your jury's deliberating in 3 days. You want to make sure what you present today is retained by them for multiple days so that they can bring it back up in deliberation. If it's just written, you get 70% after 3 hours, again, back to 10% after 3 days. But if they see it and they hear it, they will retain that information up to 65% days later. That's a huge retention increase if you just think about how you can present things more visually. Zoom is a game changer for that because Zoom has made visual presentation of evidence so much easier and so much more efficient than in the old world. What we don't want to be using at trial next year is this: a headshot of someone against a white wall in their apartment that we captured on Zoom. And that will lead to this. If you show somebody an hour and a half of this, in 20 minutes, they're all asleep because it's really boring. So we want to be sure that we can be more visual. So what's my first tip? My first tip is find the joy, because, this is how we feel about being trial lawyers. When we stand in front of a jury in the well of the courtroom, looking at 12 people that we're there to persuade. But that's not what we have right now. We are largely stuck in Zoom and Teams and on court call. And we have to learn to up our game in the virtual world. How do we be as joyful and as persuasive in these mediums as we are when we're in person? So my pandemic mantras, I'm excited to learn new things. That's because I'm not really excited to learn new things. In fact, I don't really like technology and I was not excited at all when the world went virtual. But I tell myself that because I think it is important to remember that this is a career, this is a vocation, and getting better at what we do is exciting. I would tell you that to think virtually, to be visual virtually, you have to think it through. It doesn't just happen. You have to think ahead of time. You have to practice. I spent a lot of time getting on Zoom with my legal assistant and saying, okay, what do you see? How does this work? If you're the witness and I ask you to do this, how easy is that? So that I practiced a lot. I always had a plan B, and I'll show you sort of what my plan B was, so that if one piece of tech didn't work, I had a plan B for another piece. My second pandemic mantra is I will not be intimidated. I will not be intimidated by the tech. I will learn new things. And that brings me to just breathe. What we feel on Zoom is like if there is a moment where we don't know what we're doing, or we're trying to find a document, or we're rummaging around on our screen, that it's embarrassing or anxiety producing. Just breathe. If you were live in a deposition, you might get up and go across the room, get a document out of your briefcase, bring it back, hand it to the witness, and you'd think nothing of it because you know you're going to cut that piece of the video out when you play it for the jury. Same thing on Zoom. If it takes you a minute to put a document in chat to send it to the other side, if it takes you a minute to find the right exhibit to pull up to highlight, it's fine. You can edit it out at the end. Just have the same serenity about Zoom as you do live. And the last pandemic mantra is every tech problem has a solution. This is what my son tells me all the time is, you just haven't looked hard enough, Mom. Did you Google it? Did you YouTube it? And he's not wrong. Basically, some smart young person has put on Google or YouTube a step 1 through 10 checklist of how to do virtually everything you want to do in Zoom. You can ask how to send files in chat, how to pin a witness, how to record one person. All of it is there. You just have to look hard enough. So tip number 2 is to the victor goes the spoils. And the concept there is, as intimidating as it is to think about doing something really new in Zoom, you only have to be better than them. And defense lawyers have really not adapted to Zoom. They are very hesitant, they are very resistant, and all you got to do is have a better job than them. And showing glee about using the virtual world makes defense lawyers' head explode. So, you show serenity in a Zoom deposition, you show competence, you show glee about what you're creating, and it really makes them nuts. Okay, so let's talk quickly about some equipment. I think it's important to invest in some inexpensive tech. Your camera matters. You should have an external camera. Laptops are built to be laptops, not cameras, and the cameras built into laptops do not give very crisp or clear visual images. So it's $100. Invest in a good external camera that goes, on the top of your laptop, on the top of your screen, and gives you a nice crisp view. You should make sure your camera is not too low. Many laptops, the camera was built down at the bottom of the screen. So now in Zoom, we're looking up people's noses the whole time. The camera should not be placed too high to where it's always looking down at the top of your head. The camera should be at about eye level or just above eye level, sort of the top of your head level, to give a nice, clear shot of you in the image. Similarly, as you're setting up a Zoom deposition, get on a couple minutes ahead and make sure your witness has the camera at the right angle and that you're not looking down at their head or up their nose, but that you can have a nice, clean shot of them. Sound matters. You want to be able to hear you when it comes time to play this deposition at trial. And so I use the Blue Yeti Nano. I don't have it with me today because I'm not in my home office. That's typically what I use. It's what podcasters use. It blocks out a lot of the ambient noise and it's very clear sound. But you can also use a lavalier mic that you can just pin onto your, onto your coat. You can use a headset and mic like I'm using today. I use this a lot for depositions because I want to be able to hear the witness really well and make sure that my voice is very clear, but that's up to you. But definitely think about, don't just use the speakers of your laptop, because again, laptops weren't built for audiovisual. They were built for typing. So you want better sound than just your regular laptop microphone. Lighting matters. I mean, don't be this guy. Like, this is not what you want to play at trial. So make sure you have a ring light that gives you nice, soft light, doesn't make you washed out. This is Bibi Fell, one of the Athea women, doing a virtual arbitration. Well, just look, if you're the arbitrator, you're the jury of one, who looks like they really made an effort to get to get organized for a virtual arbitration? The person on the left, she's lit, she's softly lit, she looks nice, and the opposing counsel is in a dark cave of an office. Just visually, whose facial expressions can you see? Who looks more persuasive? Background matters. You don't want a cluttered background. You want something that's professional and simple. If you're in a space where your background is not something that you can just use, think of a virtual background. There's millions of them out there. Just Google it, virtual backgrounds, and you can have a whole selection of options and find something that is crisp and clear and professional. You can put your logo on the back of your office. You can change up the color of your background depending on what color clothes you're wearing. You can have a brick background, but think about using a virtual background. And if you're going to use a virtual background because what is behind you on a daily basis at your home is your kitchen or your bedroom or the door to your bathroom, then think about using a green screen. I have one of these. Got it from Amazon. It just basically folds down behind my desk if I'm not using it. It pops up when I need a green screen, and that gives me very crisp look, so I don't fade into the virtual background. And it's very easy in Zoom. You can Google this. You just choose a virtual background and tell Zoom that you have a green screen, and it will automatically read your screen. Options for creating visuals, and that's the most important part of this presentation, is how do we be visual and do better visually in Zoom? My favorite is the tablet. I have it in front of me at all times. I just have the XP Pen tablet. It's like $70, and I use it all day, every day, because I'm on Zoom a lot. It comes with a stylus and a pen. And it allows me to make a PowerPoint out of anything. Aerial view of an intersection because I have a car accident case. Basically, any PowerPoint picture or image, the X Pen allows me to just basically draw on top of it. I pick up my pen, I circle the intersection where the accident happened as I'm talking to the witness. I can talk to them about which where they were standing. Okay, you're the X on this side of the intersection. My client is coming down this way. My client was going to turn left. And I can actually visually depict their testimony as we go along because the tablet allows you to write directly on top of a PowerPoint. So whether it's a PowerPoint image, whether it's a blank PowerPoint slide, which we're going to talk about in a minute, but the XP Pen tablet allows you to write on top of things as you go along. The IPEVO, very effective. It's like the old Elmo. It's a projector, sits on the side of your desk. You can put a piece of paper underneath it and you can write on it. And the reason that is helpful is because that's often a plan B. If for some reason your tech doesn't work, your tablet stops working, you can have a printout of your exhibits, you can put them under the projector and you can start writing. This is Bibi Fell in a virtual arbitration. Arbitration is a jury of one. You want to be as visual in arbitration as you would be in a deposition or a mediation or a trial because you're trying to persuade someone to do something for you. And here's Bibi. She had printed out some color pages that she sent to the arbitrator ahead of time. And it was designed for the arbitrator as she called each witness to have something he could take notes on about that witness. And so she under the IPVO wrote the same notes she hoped the arbitrator would copy down as she talked to the witnesses.
And you said that was 15 years of spine only?
15 years of spine only, plus, yes, plus 1 year of spine fellowship training only.
And then you said that you've also been Mr. Saunders' treating physician for the last 4 years?
Yes, since August 2016.
So you can see what BB's doing. That could be her plan A or her plan B, but what she's doing is she's creating notes right there on the spot with the witness, with the arbitrator using the IPVO. Now, I prefer the tablet because as you can see, when you see BB writing, her hand covers the writing for some portion of the writing. I prefer the tablet where you don't see my hand. You know, right now I can pick up my pen on my tablet and I can write right here. And you can't see my hand. I'm not blocking what I'm showing at any point because I'm just writing as I speak with my tablet. But the IPVO is, especially people who are a little uncomfortable with tech, the IPVO is very easy because it's just a camera that you put a document underneath. You can highlight, you can circle, you can write on top of it. Okay, there's also something called the ManyCam. It's a software program. It turns whatever is your PowerPoint slide in front of you to your background. It's really effective for court call because often judges have disabled the ability for you to share your screen with the judge. They don't want you to be able to just pull up visuals, but you can turn your background into your visual to where the judge sort of is forced to look at it because you are sitting in front of it. I use it in hearings, when there's a particular case, a particular quote, a particular document I want the judge to focus on. And so like in a Zoom hearing, you'll be able to see me and then my background becomes the Indiana statute or becomes the California code because I am in front of what is now being projected as my PowerPoint behind me. ManyCam is a program that was developed for gamers. It's also used a lot for TikTokers. If you watch TikTok, you'll see people are in front of what appears to be a backdrop. That's just ManyCam, using their PowerPoint to be their backdrop. And it's like $100 for a lifetime subscription. It took me about an hour to figure out how to make it work, but it also lets you sort of move around on the screen. So if my head is covering something, I can just hit an arrow and I can move across. And you'll see here's BB at her arbitration as she starts her closing argument using ManyCam so that the judge got to see her. Because right now you see me up in a corner. I'm a little tiny box. But if it's opening or closing of an arbitration, I want you to be able to really see me, see my expressions, see my hand gestures. So in that context, I don't want to share screen. I want my backdrop to be my visuals so that I am sort of in focus. And watch the arbitrator's face when BB got on with her PowerPoint as her background and see whether you think he's impressed and persuaded or not. And again, you only have to be better than them.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, very impressive.
Pretty impressed with myself too.
I'm amazed.
And watch how she uses it in her closing argument.
Let's see what else he said. I'm not going to say that he is malingering. We just don't have the evidence to support that. This is the respondent's expert. He did strike me as someone who honestly believed what he was reporting. The neuropsychological testing is not a lie detector test, but that's how the defense is attempting to use it.
So again, you see how effective this is, okay? Think about yourself as an arbitrator. And in the opposing counsel is going to be a head shot with his cluttered office behind him. And BB has got all of her demonstratives. She's moving around in the screen, and she is giving a persuasive closing argument in a completely virtual arbitration. There's also something called a TV overlay. So if you want to set up sort of a Zoom pod in a conference room, and you think that in an arbitration, you might want to stand in front of a TV and have all of your stuff projected to a TV so that you can stand for opening or stand for closing. You can also buy it's like little strips that you put on the edge of the TV, and it shoots lasers across the surface of the TV, so that it becomes a touch screen. You attach your computer to the TV screen, and then it becomes essentially a touch screen that you can stand in front of. So here's BB in her opening statement of the arbitration, doing her opening, standing in front of a TV.
So there is hope for him. And that hope is if he gets the spine surgery, which he's scheduled to do, if he gets the Botox, which has been helping him immensely, and if he gets the psychiatric help for his mood, once his pain issues are resolved to get him out of that deep hole of depression, there's hope for Ketty.
Again, simulating what we did in the real world as close as we can in the virtual world, where she's standing, she's in front of a screen, except it's her TV, and she can manipulate it just using that TV overlay. She can also use her finger to circle things. She can write things with her finger on that overlay. All right, so I'll just give you an example of how easy it is to have a simple Zoom setup. In the pandemic, I moved home. I'm originally from Barbados, and I moved home to Barbados for a year. So I could only bring with me the tech I could fit in a suitcase. And I set up an entire Zoom station for a year on a folding table in a rental house in Barbados. And you'll see I had my external camera above my second screen. I had a ring light and some extra lights because I was in kind of a dark corner. I had my XP Pen tablet with my stylus. I had my iPivo, and I had my headset. There, that's my entire Zoom setup. And I'm ready to, interview witnesses, sign up clients, hire experts, do depositions, do arbitrations. And I was actually supposed to do an entire trial by Zoom while I was there. And I was set up for all of it until the case went away. Okay, so let's talk about some examples and things to think about what you want to be doing in Zoom. First of all, Zoom gives you easy peasy visuals. We know that as you share screen in Zoom, you immediately get split screen viewing. You get viewing that is more visually interesting than just the headshot. You immediately get two views, just like CNN tells us. I mean, they never do an interview where you just see Jake Tapper or now deceased General Powell. You always have visuals. It goes back to the people he's talking to. You want to be as visually interesting as CNN. So I'll give you an example case. I tried a case earlier this year against Howard Johnson in California. Owner of Howard Johnson wanted to make more money. They decided they would put a children's water park in their parking lot called Castaway Cove. They cut every corner, didn't know what they were doing, didn't follow any of the safety rules. And my little 6-year-old shows up on August the 16th to see Disney, to see Minnie Mouse, and then to go to the water park that afternoon. She gets into this hot tub that is allowed to overheat, and she passes out, falls face first into the water. By the time she is dragged out and resuscitated, she is brain damaged and in hospital for 92 days. So I want to take the deposition of the water park supervisor. This is what I would get if I just didn't think through what I'm going to do visually. I would get a head shot of the water park supervisor in front of her door in her apartment on Zoom. But Zoom allows me.
So there is a completely open line of vision for the person at the top of the slide to the hot tub.
Correct.
So Zoom allows me to, the moment I share screen, the picture of where the water attendant stands, the clear view they have of the hot tub where my little girl drowns because they're not watching. You can see her, you can see my picture, and that is captured on Zoom immediately, efficiently. without me having to travel, without me having to be in a conference room with multiple videographers, so much more effective and efficient. And all I've done is taken the picture, put it on a PowerPoint slide, and put it into my presentation as I share screen. Now I can also pick up my XP pen and I can write, as she tells me the answer, clear view. I can put an arrow, I can point, I can say this is where my person would be, so that I can interact with the witness using my tablet and my XP pen just as she talks. Tip number 4, agreement charts. I think these are game changers. We all know 2 very good friends of mine, Rick Friedman and Pat Malone, wrote one of the seminal books of plaintiff's law, Rules of the Road. And the concept is you want to set out your case in terms of safety rules. Jurors walk into a case, they don't know what the rules are for truckers. They don't know what the rules are for nursing homes. They don't know what the rules are for manufacturing plants. You have to teach them the safety rules of that industry in order for them to understand what the defendant did wrong. And we know you want to start with the safety rules of that industry. You want to focus on the defendant's conduct first. And so we want to be creating safety rules. We want to be creating an agreement on safety rules. So we want to see if we can establish that we agree on what the safety rules are. Our experts agree on what the safety rules are. But equally important, that we get the defendant to agree on the safety rules and the defendant's experts. So we can stand in front of the jury in opening statement and say, unanimously, not in dispute, not contested, here are the safety rules of this industry. So, for example, one of the safety rules we wanted was that safety starts with management. Okay, good safety rule. In the real world, this is how I proved up that safety rule. It's a serious traumatic brain injury case. It's the result of a minor impact rear end collision. And I wanted to take the president of the company and have her agree with my safety rules. Safety starts with management. So I built a very specific, clear rule. I give her a chart. Don't put anything in the middle. Don't do a neutral one. I would suggest you either do 1 through 4, strongly disagree, disagree, agree, strongly agree, or you can even put in the slightlys if you want to do 6. But don't do a neutral in the middle, because it gives the witness an option to choose, I don't know, I'm not sure, a neutral number. Push them to either agree or disagree with you. 1 through 4, 1 through 6. We heard a lot about you, that this is your company, correct?
Yes.
You are the owner.
Yes.
You are the president of the company.
Yes.
Okay, president. And the buck stops with you.
Yes.
All major decisions are made by you or authorized or approved by you.
Yes.
You would want people to, if they see something, say something.
Exactly.
You would want them to report.
Yes.
And safety starts at management. When you get that report, you would expect your managers to respond.
Yes.
Fix the dangerous situation, correct?
Yes.
And Exhibit 2 says safety starts with management. I've given you a Sharpie. Can you tell me where on my scale you fall in agreeing or disagreeing with that statement? Safety starts with management.
Can I do this?
I'm sure you can.
Okay. I would say strongly agree.
So in the real world, what I've done now is I've established, I have her ticket, sign it, I put an exhibit number on it, I put it, attach it to the deposition. This becomes a slide I use in opening statement. I put her face on it. But you see how cumbersome it is, because the jury can't see what she's agreeing with. They can't see until I show them this, what she's actually writing on. But in Zoom, all of that is possible right there as you ask the question. So in the virtual world, for example, in the Howard Johnson case, I wanted to ask the defendant about agreement of safety rules. So here's the general manager of Howard Johnson, Jonathan Whitehead, and here's the safety rule I want him to agree with. A hotel owner is responsible for creating and maintaining a safe children's water park. 3 very important words for me: creating, maintaining, safe. So I've built myself an agreement chart, and I'm going to have him agree in the deposition with me on this.
I'm going to ask you to tell me where on this chart you fall between strongly disagree, all the way to strongly agree with the concept that a hotel owner is responsible for creating and maintaining a safe children's water park.
6, yes, agreed. Strongly agreed.
Okay. Now I'm going to mark that as deposition exhibit number 13.
So you see, now I have a good opening slide, okay, with the owner, the general manager of the defendant agreeing with my number one safety rule. And in this case, the owner of the Howard Johnson also owned the Courtyard by Marriott next door. Over here, he followed all of the safety rules because this property was a much more high-end property than the Howard Johnson. So the next point I want to make is that you shouldn't change your safety rules depending on if someone's spending a bunch of money or not.
Mr. Whitehead, safety in a children's water park should not depend on the cost of the hotel room. On a scale of 1 to 6, from strongly disagree to strongly agree, what would you say?
We'll say 6.
It would be wrong for a water park operator to take the position that if a person paid less for their hotel room, the water park cared less about that person's safety.
It would be wrong. I agree.
If we talk about the right way to be would be safety first, the wrong way for a hotel to be is to take the position that if a customer, if you pay less, we care less. So in answer to my question, it would be wrong to care less about the safety of guests who pay less. You strongly agree, number 6.
Right. Correct.
Now you can see how much more visually interesting that is than just the head of someone, me asking these questions where you cannot see my visuals at the same time as I'm asking the questions. So I'm building here visuals in the deposition. And what happens is when I got to trial, I use my IPVO at trial to recreate that imagery in the courtroom using the IPVO, where again, just like my tablet, the jury can see me interacting with the documents, with the safety agreements, the safety rules, as I talk to the general manager. So this case, we did the depositions, then we went to trial. I built this sort of roadmap of safety rules. I tried to put in place a visual of how my cross-examination of the manager was going to go as I walked through all the safety rules with him. It was a trial that was covered by CVN, so we had cameras in the courtroom. It was live streamed out of the courtroom. So you can now see how you transition to what you do in the deposition and how it plays at trial. So what we did is we set up the IPVO right here in the well, and I was using it as I interacted with the witness. I had built this very simple visual called the Road to Castaway Cove, and these were the 4 billboards that you had to drive by to get to a safe water park. And my point is that you just blew by each one of these billboards, never stopped to actually appreciate them or implement them.
When Mr. Edmondson decided he wanted a water park, I want to talk to you about what I'm going to call the Road to Castaway Cove, because that's what we ended up calling your water park, right? It was Castaway Cove.
That's correct, yes.
All right. So let's talk about, I want to talk first about the safety rules, because you would agree with me that one of the things you need to do in order to learn how to run a water park for children is to understand the safety rules for water parks for children.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then the other thing you all did.
So you can see I'm building that there's 4 steps to having a safe water park. Follow the safety rules, go see what other water parks are like, hire the right experts, get a permit. And now I'm going to organize my cross-examination at trial around these 4 posts. But I'm going to use what I created in the deposition because I've created visual memory for the witness. And if he gives me trouble, I'm going to play the clip in front of the jury using the same visuals.
All right, so let's start with safety rules. You and I have talked about this before, that part of the safety rules on the Road to Castaway Cove was an appreciation of the importance of putting safety first to protect the children that were going to come into your children's water park, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you would strongly agree that children's water parks must put safety first to protect the children, true?
True.
All right, so I'm going to circle strongly agree. And then we're going to,
So again, you can see what I've done is I've created visual memory in the deposition. When that safety rule appears, he knows not to quibble with me. He knows to give me 6 strongly agree because he knows I've got the depo cut of him agreeing the last time. So how do we take what was a little bit cumbersome in the real world of handing people safety agreements and having them do stuff and bring it into the virtual world? And then I'll give you another example. This was a case again in California. It's a celebrity chef who fell down these uneven stairs at a luxury motel in Sonoma. The stairs were very dark at night. She's walking back from the pool. She falls all the way down the stairs. They're really poorly lit at night. This is a picture 2 nights later of the stairs at the same time of night as she's walking from the hot tub back to her room. And she breaks her foot in many different ways. She can't cook the same way anymore because she can't stand. And you'll see we're building very simple safety rule agreements in order to use them in mediation and to use them at trial. So I was working with a woman called Donna Cohn-Payne in Sonoma on this case. And here is what we built for mediation. You'll see that as you build these good cuts in your Zoom depots, they then become very interesting cuts for your mediation video or to just show your mediator in clips as you walk through mediation.
Does this photograph is an accurate representation of the darkness of the stairs in September of 2017?
From this angle, yes.
In order for things to be well lit in this area, you would have added more lighting, correct?
Correct.
Regarding the statement, stairs should be visible at night for the safety of guests, what is your position with regards to that statement?
I strongly agree.
And now you see me taking those agreements and taking them to their experts in the same case, because I want now the experts to agree. So I can say our safety rules are uncontested and opening.
And so would you agree with me that stairs should be visible at night?
Yes.
Is that true? Yes. Okay. And was that particularly true when the stairs are uneven, like you have told us these stairs were, because they were made of stones?
Yes.
When we talked to Mr. Stewart, the owner of the El Pueblo Inn, he told us that he strongly agreed that stairs should be visible at night for the safety of guests. And you agree with that too, right, sir?
Yes, as I said, stairs should be visible at night, yes.
Okay. So as you can tell, huge proponent of agreement charts. I think they're really effective. I think they're clear. They're simple. Jurors get them. And I think they work. All right. Tip number 5, encourage you right on the wall. I know that seems like a weird phrase, but you know, in the old world, in the real world, when we showed up at depositions and they were really nice whiteboards or they were these really cool panels that you could write on, even if I didn't have a videographer, even if there was nobody filming it, I always got up and wrote on the wall. Because I found that if you start writing down what the witness is saying, if you start charting, if you start itemizing for the witness the issues you're going to talk about in your cross-examination of them, if you write down their words, you tie the witness to the board, and the witness starts to not feel like they can fight you the same way because they're looking up at their words, they're looking up at their phrases, they're looking at your chart or your timeline, and you get a different transcript. So here's some examples from the real world, and then I'll show you how to bring it into the virtual world. From the real world, we litigate, we have a number of cases against Boeing. And this is an example of me deposing the defense medical exam doctor from Boeing. My point being that he is someone the client was required to go see, not someone that she chose. And your job in these medical evaluations is to evaluate injured workers, not on their behalf, right? They didn't choose to come see you.
Correct. I'm not a treating physician.
Right. They're being required to come see you.
Yes.
Now, so in these medical evaluations, you are not their doctor, right? That's pretty clear. They're not coming to see you because you are their doctor.
Yes, it's called an independent medical evaluation.
You are not treating them, right? That nothing about what you do is going to make them feel better.
I don't know whether it makes them feel better or not. If I give them an impairment rating that they agree with, they may feel better about that.
All right, let me ask a better question then. Nothing you do is going to prescribe any medical treatment for these patients.
That's correct. I do not have a treating relationship.
They are not your patient, right?
That's correct.
All right, these people are required to come see you, right?
Yes.
True? And my client was required to come see you.
Yes.
So you can see it's more interesting than just a headshot because I am capturing his words, I'm emphasizing his words, I'm making my point. But how do we bring that easily into the virtual world? Well, Zoom makes it so easy. So here is my partner, Rainey Booth, doing almost the exact same thing in the brain injury case with one of the defense doctors, establishing that he is not a treating doctor, that he did not see the patient, he did a medical chart review only. But look how efficient and easy it is on Zoom.
All right, you never provided care or treatment to Steve McGarrell, is that right?
That is correct.
All right, so no, never provided. You're not one of Stephen McGarrell's treating doctors, right?
Correct.
You've never spoken to Mr. McGarrell.
Correct.
And you've never reviewed treatment records of all the various different treating doctors as part of that are part of his treatment team, detailing his injuries, their care, all of that. You've never reviewed those records, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so again, you see how Zoom makes it so much more efficient. You don't have to fly there. You don't have to stand in front of their wall. You can build your chart. You can build it any way you want. You are then going to edit it. You're going to screenshot it this way, and you're going to show it to the jury with the visual and the witness on the same screen. Far more interesting than just the man talking. Real world, we would bring blow-ups to almost every deposition. And we would have double cameras and double videographers in order to show visually what we were talking about. Here's an example from my other partner, Matt Leckman. Again, the brain injury case.
At this snapshot in time, is he a dependable driver for the company as of May 15th, 2017?
I don't work with him on a daily basis. I can't tell you if he was a dependable driver.
Is he a good driver for Rios to be out in a company vehicle on the road, wearing a company uniform, doing his job?
I can't answer that question.
We can at least agree.
Okay, so you see, cumbersome, right? You got to bring it, you got to set it up, you got to get the camera angle right. We would bring flip charts to every deposition so that, again, we could capture witnesses' testimony. Here is my partner, Rainey Booth, with a flip chart.
Well, let's see if we can agree this. So if we're talking about a traumatic brain injury or a TBI, that's short for traumatic brain injury, right?
Yes.
You agree with me that two factors, maybe not the only two factors, but two factors that would determine if an individual is going to suffer an injury from trauma, an injury to their brain from trauma. One would be the force. You agree with that?
That's roughly correct.
Okay. A second factor would be the susceptibility or vulnerability of the brain at the time the force is applied, correct?
There's some of that, yes.
Okay, Now, in the virtual world, that's so easy because your tablet and your PowerPoint create both a flip chart and a blow up without you having to blow things up, pay for the money, and haul them across town. Instead, you just put a blank white PowerPoint slide all through your PowerPoint, and you can write whatever you want. You can talk about the TBI. You can talk about one of the issues is force. You can talk about the second issue is susceptibility. And right there in front of the witness, the jury is seeing you build exactly what we did in the real world, but far easier. You can create a timeline as you talk to the witness. You can, go through, create an important timeline of, your client arrived at the hospital at 9:03 in the morning. That's an important time start. IV wasn't started till 9:35, then the OR, the surgery, the recovery, and you can get the witness to agree with you on these times. And now what the witness is saying is being visually replicated on the screen so the jury sees how his testimony matches up with what you want to prove. If you hate your handwriting, you can type it all out, and then you can just go through it with the witness and check it off with your tablet as they agree that they've looked at the records and what all the times are. But you're creating a much more visually interesting deposition. Tip number 6, split screen viewing. This is what you want to end up with. You want to end up with 2 visual images on your screen, or the witness and a visual, you and the witness. You want something that will increase the goldfish's attention span to where they're hearing and seeing and retaining what you're showing them. So in the real world, it meant that we dragged in double videographers to every important deposition. We had one capture the witness, and the witness always stays on the screen. The second one was on the lawyer or the document or the flip chart. And we basically got 2 video streams, the witness from one videographer and then the lawyer and whatever the lawyer was using visually on the second video stream. And then we use split screen apps to edit our depositions to where they're far more interesting. Rather than this, you got me and the witness. You got, again, someone standing up and interacting with the flip chart. You got the document we were talking to the witness about with the part we were talking about highlighted. We got the chart we were building. And if anybody says to you, any defense lawyer says, "Oh, I've never heard of that. That is so newfangled to have 2 images on the screen at the same time," I'll show you a clip from 2001. That is 20 years ago when we were already using split screen technology in the courtroom. This is a clip that played at a trial in 2001. So you'll see how young I look, but you'll see this is not newfangled stuff. This is just thinking how to visually present evidence in a more trial-like format that you are getting from a deposition.
You said yesterday that Dear Doctor letters are always sent out in conjunction with the FDA.
They can only be sent out to the FDA, to the best of my knowledge, can be sent out after the FDA has approved them.
And that's because the FDA has authority to tell Park Davis what should or should not go into Dear Doctor letters.
That's correct. They tell all pharmaceutical companies.
So this is not new. We just can do it better in Zoom. You can see how bad the quality is. This is from old videotape depositions. We had multiple videographers. We were editing in. We were creating the technology to split screen. Now there's apps that do it. So bringing it into the virtual world, you don't need 2 videographers. You just need Zoom. Zoom is going to give you 2 video streams. They're going to give you the witness and the exhibit and visuals automatically. That's how Zoom is set up. But you can also get a second stream of the lawyer. Get your videographer that you've hired to pin, not spotlight, but to pin and record the witness and whatever visuals and exhibits you're using. That will give you not just the head of the person, but it will give you the person and the exhibit or the visual you're using. And then get your videographer to either record a second stream if they have that ability, Or your own office, your legal assistant gets on and records and pins you, the questioning lawyer, and just pins you and records you. And that gives you these 2 video streams without having to haul 2 sets of cameras and 2 sets of videographers down into a conference room. You can do it side by side where you see the witness and the exhibit at the same time. You can have the witness smaller and the exhibit bigger if you want them to be able to see something. You can have you and the witness side by side. But remember, your goal is to increase attention span. And that is this is far more interesting than just the headshot. So you want to be always thinking as you start editing your depositions for trial or for a mediation video or for an arbitration is how can I make this more visually interesting and improve the attention span of my audience? I have some court orders specifically permitting multiple cameras. If your defendants are objecting, just email me. I'll send them to you. Here's one from 2003 talking about the ability for the parties to use 2 or 3 video cameras, one on the deponent, one on the questioning lawyer, and one on the exhibit. Email me, I'll send it to you. I have another one from 2016. This is an interesting order because the defendants moved to have multiple videographers at the deposition, and the federal judge bent over backwards to explain how important it is to have a very realistic, more trial-like depiction of a deposition, and approved the double cameras. I think you do need to put in your deposition notice that you are going to be recording the witness, the questioning lawyer, and the exhibit, and that you intend to use the deposition at trial and present the testimony using split screen technology so that it's very clear what you're doing. And my position is if they don't file a motion to quash, if they don't file objections, you're golden. And even if they do, litigate it. This is not newfangled stuff. This is just trying to duplicate as close as possible what you have in a courtroom to a deposition. Okay, very quickly, our tip number 7, our bonus tip is try and get a photograph of each deponent. And so in the real world, when I used to go to depositions where they weren't videoed, I didn't have a videographer, I would basically snap a shot of the people as they walked in. As they sat down and they were sworn in, I'd pick up my iPhone and say, I'm just going to take a quick picture of you. And I would just take a picture of them because I know I want to build slides for trial with their face. I want to have their face as I'm going through an agreement chart where I'm trying to get them to agree with something. I want their face on documents that they wrote so that the jury sees this is something they wrote. So in the real world, I just took snapshots of all the Boeing people as they came in one by one for their depositions. You can see we're all in the same conference room and I'm just taking pictures of them. So that I can put their picture on an impeachment slide in case they're not going to agree with me at trial as to how many fume events Boeing's planes have every day. I can put their picture on the quote from the deposition. But in the virtual world, it's so much easier because they're there on screen and you can just screenshot them. So you can Shift Windows S basically screenshots your screen. If you're on a Mac, it's Command Shift 4 and a little box pops up and you can basically encircle anything on your screen and snip or cut it and just paste it into a PowerPoint slide. So now at the start of every deposition, I take a cut of the picture of the person as they are about to start their deposition so that I can use it then when I'm about to go to trial. I can use it making agreement charts or using their depositions to impeach. You can also use a picture from their deposition to go with whatever the document is that's important. They wrote this document, they were the inspector, they came out, this is what their findings are. And remember what I told you. After you have practiced, after you've thought about what you're going to do, after you have breathed and not had anxiety about using tech, after you have told yourself that you're excited about learning new things, the key is you only have to be better than them. And here is the arbitrator from BB's arbitration, very last day, at the end of everything, as he's saying goodbye to the parties. Listen to what he says about the tech BB used.
Okay, I want to compliment you both. It's really been a pleasure working with you, and I am totally blown away by BB with the technology that you put up there. I mean, I gotta compliment you on that. Wouldn't you agree, Jason?
You're going to make me agree, huh?
I am going to make you agree.
Yeah, the bells and whistles are good.
So you see the point. You know, you want to be as good as you want to be. I mean, you want to be as good as you can be. You want to be as visual as you can be. You want to get the longest attention span you can. But remember, if that's how an arbitrator feels, tell me you don't think he was more persuaded because the visuals were better. And it's not tough, and it's inexpensive. It's easy to do. And I would encourage everybody to get on Zoom and start trying and start working things out, start playing with the tech, Google a lot of stuff, watch some YouTube videos, because Zoom is a game changer for us. We are better on Zoom. We are more efficient. We are more cost effective. We spend our clients' money better when we are on Zoom. So thank you all very much. I appreciate it. And good luck to you.